Hare Krishna. Good evening. We will continue discussing Nectar of Instruction, verse 1, the purport. And that we have here. We will discuss this paragraph. In his Anuvriti explanation of the Upadesamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called a tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So tapasvi. What does it mean to be austere for a devotee? Austere means being able to say no to sense gratification. Mostly when we eat too much, more than we need. And if we eat more than we need, then that causes toxins in the body and disease. And so sometimes we overeat. If we overeat, then it's a good habit to skip the next meal. We have also the tendency to eat too much sugar and too much proteins, especially too much glucose and fructose. That if you eat that too much, then the mind feels good. But then 2 hours later, you go into the depression. You go from one thing to another. And so by that, your mood is controlled by the material energy. So it is said here in this sentence is important. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. So we have to be very careful with that. Proteins like cheese and so on, we should be very careful with that. Once a devotee in Vrindavan cooked for Srila Prabhupada, and he cooked a sabji with a lot of cheese, and then Prabhupada was very pleased with his cooking. But his next day, he again cooked the same thing with a lot of cheese. And when Prabhupada, when he was served, he was removing the cheese from the chutney, from the sabji, removing it. And the devotee asked Prabhupada, why are you removing the cheese? Well, Prabhupada said, if you take too much cheese, everyday cheese, then you will not be able to control the sex urge. So these things are there. Of course, what you can eat and what you cannot eat is different for everyone. but this is an important lesson to learn, that otherwise, if you eat too much, you cannot live the life of a brahmachari. And Gandhi was his entire life was trying to be a tapasvi. Why? Because at the time when his father was going to leave his body, he felt a sex urge, and instead of being with his father, he went to his wife and at night. And anyway, that and immediately while he was enjoying sex, that with his wife at that moment, his father passed away. So he was not with his father when he passed away. And that made a deep impression for the rest of his life, that I have to control this sex urge. And he was always experimenting with eating not too much, not too less. So that's the importance for a devotee to control this sex urge. And that controlling, that starts with not eating too much, just what we need. So we can read the next paragraph. When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking. Useless talking, such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers or of persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karmakanda, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literature are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in Bhagavatam 1.5.10. Nayat vachasitra padam areyaso shagat pavitram praginita karichit. Tad vayasam tirtha usanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantu sikshaya. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So here we have the difference between the materialist and the devotee. That a devotee is very careful with his consciousness. Where am I going to put my consciousness in? This is very important, that we are only associating and speaking about Krishna or Krishna's service, related to Krishna's service, and not about mundane things. That will be explained further in the next verse. This is called prajalpa, talking about sensual enjoyment. That many times these are the talks of most of people. how they enjoyed and how they were not able to enjoy. That it brings us to the poly concept of life. Therefore, with materialistic people, we should just associate with what's really needed. That's about this literature. Does the next verse that which with a very beautiful purport of Srila Prabhupada. Tatvakvisharo Janatara Viplavo Yavsmim Pati Slokam Abatya Batyapi Namanantasya Sokitani Yat Shivanti Gayanti Shivanta Sadhava. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious life of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So the conclusion is that we should talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we can refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness. So only talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is, therefore, to speak about or to talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we must hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it's so important that we have a reading program every day. That what you see on the screen is the Bhaktivedanta database, and when I was traveling with Prahlad Maharaj, he showed me what he was reading every day. Because every day he put a bookmark where he finished, so that next day he knew with the bookmark where he would start the next day. So he would read about 10 verses of the Bhagavatam with purports every day. He would read Bhagavad Gita, an entire chapter. He would repeat an entire chapter, verses and translation every day. So that takes 20 minutes maybe. And he would read a few purports systematically of the Bhagavad Gita. And then he would read also Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, that Chaitanya Charitamrita, about also 10 verses and purport. And then, yes, I think Nectar of Devotion, and in the evening, one chapter of Krishna book. So that takes in, if you are concentrated reading, that takes 1 hour. Takes 1 hour every day. And that has a very deep impact on your Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada asks us to read at least 2 hours a day. That we should especially read 2 hours a day if we are not Yeah, if we don't have a Bhagavatam class, then certainly we should. But we should have a Bhagavatam class every day. Otherwise, we hear from classes from others that, and that will help fix the mind on Krishna and see things in relation with Krishna during the day. That and then automatically, because you have been absorbed in Krishna, reading about Krishna, you will talk about Krishna. That's what Prabhupada always say. I can now speak about Krishna because I heard with attention. He heard from his spiritual master. Hearing means also reading with attention. That's also hearing. Hearing from Prabhupada. So that this is important because, of course, so many things go wrong in this world and so on, and we can become absorbed in the news and of today the elections in America, but that is not what we should absorb ourselves in. That this voting business. There's one rascal is voting for another rascal. That because they are, Prabhupada calls them rascals because they don't know who they are and they don't know the goal of life. They are just trying to please the people, and by facilitating their sense gratification. They call it economic development. That it's all temporary. It has no value. That now further here. This is about the flickering mind and anger. So it's on the screen here. Can someone read this paragraph?
Hare Krishna.
Very good.
As for the agitation of the flickering mind, they are divided into two categories. The first is called aviorda priti,
Yep.
or unrestricted attachment, and the other is called viroda yukta korada, anger arising from frustration. Adherence to the philosophy of the Maya Vedas, belief in the fruitive results of karma Vedas, and belief in the plans based on the materialistic desires are called aviorada prita. Gyanis, karmis, and materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materials cannot fulfill their plans and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desires produces anger.
Yeah. So this is a fact. This is a fact in the material world, that the material energy is not going to cooperate with our plans, for sure. That then that because I read in the Bhagavatam, it's in the 7th canto, first chapter. There is a verse that says that this body is only meant to give suffering, to produce suffering. So that's a punishment of trying to be the controller, trying to be Krishna. And similarly, the entire material energy is there to produce problems for the materialistic plan makers. And therefore, the plans of the materialistic people in this world never never become true. There is always frustration, and that frustration produces anger. That is a fact. And but instead of concentrating on our plans, concentrating on what we want to realize in this world, that the concentrating of our expectations, that that will make us unhappy. That instead we should concentrate on the service of Krishna. That not on all these plans that we have. That we are here just for a moment. I mean, we try to fulfill all these plans, like the neophyte devotee. Krishna says there are four kinds of materialistic neophyte devotees. Chaturvida bhajante mam yujana sekretariana achta shikhna sa achtarti yang sa bharatarshava. O son of Bharat, there are four kinds of people who approach me with material desires, those who are in distress, those who want wealth, those who want knowledge, and those who want to know the absolute truth. Four kinds. But they all have to ask something to Krishna. But it's childish to ask these things for Krishna. It's all temporary, this world. Why asking for temporary things to Krishna? Ask for the real thing. The real thing is spiritual advancement. That when we are, then by spiritual advancement, we get rid of these material desires. We don't have to ask these material things to Krishna. Krishna maintains all living entities, maintains the monkeys, the dogs, the cats, the ants, the elephant. An elephant eats much more than you can eat in an entire month. That every day, that and Krishna provides that. So that's it. It's like asking for dirt to Krishna. No, ask for the real thing. That and then Krishna will reciprocate. Ananya Ananta Sintiyantamam Yajna Parapasta Tesam Nityabhyuktam Yoga Ksema Vamyam. Krishna says, my devotee, I give him what he needs. What he needs spiritual advancement. And he protects what he has. He protects his Krishna consciousness already developed. That's the real thing to ask. Because this unrestricted attachment, that's very dangerous. Unrestricted attachment. And we see the publicity people, they know that how to attract the senses of people and get them attracted, and then to create this urge in their hearts that I cannot live anywhere, and I cannot live without this latest car of this or that. That's this unrestricted attachment, and it leads to, and finally, this attachment does never become true. It doesn't give satisfaction to the soul. The satisfaction of the senses, the senses are never satisfied. The mind is never satisfied. You cannot satisfy it. That's the material nature. It leads to anger and frustration. So therefore, why going after these material desires, and that so that is this Aviroda pretty that Giannis, karmis, and materialistic plan makers, they all want something. That Giannis, they want to be liberated. Karmis want to to enjoy that materialistic plan makers. Yes, that we see, but the material nature reacts to it. You exploit material nature. Material nature will react. We have everywhere this pollution, climate change, and all the hurricanes everywhere. that storms we have never seen before. That is all the result that of materialistic plan makers. That instead of making these materialistic plans, that it is said in the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, like the Grihastha, the householder, should be an agriculturist, should be live on the land and the cows. That this simple way of living, that but no, they try to destroy everywhere this village culture. That but we see the village culture in Vrindavan is so peaceful. That that's the way to live. Krishna shows us the way to live. That it leads all to frustration, anger. Now the demands of the body. That can someone reads this? I will moment. Just if you can read this, if someone wants to read this, Hare Krishna.
I'll read it again, Maharaj. Unless
I can read.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided into three categories: the demands of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to the eating of prasadam, the urges of belly and the genitals can automatically be controlled.
Yes. That so this is very important in very important advice, especially the tongue, the belly, and the genitals are in one line. If you eat too much, the stomach and so on will, and the intestines will put pressure on the genital, and you will not be able to control your sex urge. Controlling the sex urge starts with the controlling the tongue. That so it is said here as a remedy. One should restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities of the eating of prasadam. That yes, one should only Krishna Prasad, but at scheduled times, not between. That and it's austere. You have to, in the beginning, you have to eat at certain scheduled times. A time for breakfast, a time for lunch, and time for dinner if needed, that are scheduled times. And Rupa Goswami said, yes, one should eat only prasadam, but not too much. Otherwise, also, you will not be able to control the sex urge. But the potency of prasadam is that it will help you to control this demands of the tongue, stomach, genitals, because prasadam is spiritual, and by that the body is made of food. It grows, it develops because of food. And if the food is spiritual, your body really becomes spiritualized. Every cell becomes replaced by prasadam practically. And that will help to control the senses. Of course, then you have here the song we sing. We should always sing before the prayer we sing before prasadam. And it's good to concentrate on the meaning, because this is a song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we all know this song. Sarya Vidya Jal Yodandrya Taikal Shiva Philip Sai Sagari Dharmadi Chivayati Lobomois Dharmati Tarchitagatina Samsari Krishna Bhara Doyamai Koribare Jivajai Swaprasata Dilabai Samrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Prem Dako Chitayanitai. O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into the ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasadam to help us conquer the tongue. Therefore, let us take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify your lordships. Shri Radha and Krishna, and in love call for help of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. That there is also a verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is in this verse explains the mood in which we should take prasad. Because this nectar of instruction is really a summary of nectar of devotion. So in nectar of devotion, Rupa Goswami says, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Gayam Indriyai Sevan Mukhe Jivatas Vameva Sprat Yada. Because Krishna's form, pastimes, etc. are all on the absolute platform, material senses cannot appreciate them. So we have, in a few days, we have Govardhan Puja celebration, that if you tell this pastime to to materialistic people, they will say, yeah, these are stories. They will not appreciate because they cannot appreciate because they are not controlling the senses. They are following the urges of the mind and the dictations of what material nature tells them. But Rupa Goswami said, when a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue. So service starts with the tongue, he says. Using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food. And by that the tongue is purified and one really comes to understand who Krishna really is. So it means we cannot begin to understand even if our senses are not controlled. And the way to control our senses is to engage them in devotional service. So yes, this is then here Prabhupada goes a little deeper in this subject matter. Yeah. Can someone read this paragraph, please? There are 6 kinds of rasas.
I will read it for you.
Yeah, please.
There are 6 kinds of rasas, taste, and if one is agitated by one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semina and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by a Krishna conscious person. The use of pan, haritaki, betel nut, and various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulged in to fulfill illicit demands. If we can practice accepting only remnants of food offered by Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this, yeah, of course, the use of various spices, that hot spices, tobacco, yeah, that LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, that is to fulfill illicit demands. Of course, the devotee becomes quickly free from it because that when one eats Krishna Prasad, it is of a much higher quality. And one feels satisfied. So yes, this shows how we are conditioned by Maya and how the devotee gets quickly free from these illicit demands that we know that in the beginning many hippies in America joined our movement, and they were especially at that time addicted to LSD, marijuana, and so on. So it was, but from the moment they joined the movement, they quickly gave it up. and it's difficult to give up if you are addicted to it. In our first temple store or in San Francisco, that was in this hippie area, and people came to the morning program. And many hippies came to the morning program, and that was seen as a good way to get rid of the after effects of taking LSD. But many of them became devotees and gave it up very, very quickly. That's the higher taste. And but eating to fulfill the tongue's demand. That tongue's demand, we call it, yes, what we like to eat. What the tongue demands is what we like to eat. And so yeah, in Krishna consciousness, we learn to cook for Krishna and prepare what Krishna wants to eat, not what we want to eat. What does Krishna wants to eat? Well, if we have in a few days Govardhan Puja, there Lord Krishna tells his father that you no need to worship this Indra, to do this Indra Jahya. And we are Vaishyas that, he says many things there, but the Vrajavasis, they love Krishna so much, and whatever Krishna say, they will do to please him. So they decided to worship Govardhan Hill, Govardhan, because Govardhan is pleasing the cows, and that's the Vaishya's business. But then how to worship Govardhan? And Krishna explains what to cook and offer to Govardhan. And he gives an entire menu of dal, and rice, and so many milk sweets, and so much detail is given there. So we are more concerned with satisfying Krishna and not the demands of our tongue. That mostly if we follow Ayurveda and have a menu with all the tastes, and sweet, sour, astringent, and bitter, and hot, and if all these tastes are there, that's very good for the health, this variety. But yes, eating for sense gratification, that should be stopped. Of course, as a devotee, we don't eat meat, fish, eggs, but we also refrain from from garlic, onions, and so on. Why? Because garlic and onions, it are plants or vegetables in the mode of ignorance, because they grow underneath the ground. They don't get daylight. And they bring you, if you eat them, they bring you to the lower modes, passion and ignorance. Also chili and so on. Extra quantities of spices like chili. Prabhupada says extra quantities. So you can use a bit, but don't use a lot, because that's going to stimulate your passion. There was Mahavishnu Goswami, the old Gujarati Swami. He told us in Dwarka, sometimes, people, they have marriage ceremonies, and then there were a lot of Punjabis at a certain marriage, and these Punjabis, they like to eat chili and garlic, and it was like a buffet style, and they were eating a lot of garlic and chili, and they eat a lot of that, and after that they will fight with each other. Fight will go. So it's not good to eat these things and strictly adhere to what Krishna wants us to offer to him, and that. So it said here, if you can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. So means always eating Krishna Prasad. That you go on the airplane, you take Krishna Prasad with you. That don't take food prepared by materialistic people, because their consciousness is in the food. And the food and this food will influence your consciousness. And what's the result? You cannot control your senses. Maya's victimization is there. Their lusty desires is in the food. That devotees prepare food with love for Krishna. Love is in it. And then you offer it to Krishna. If someone loves you and cooks for you, then you feel, oh, this person loves me. That and the eating is completely different than like eating something on the airplane or whatever. That so vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are proper food to offer to the Lord, as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. However, if one accepts prasadam only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasadam. If we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's Antyal Lila 6227, it is stated, Shivara lala seye itiutidai, Shishnu dare parayanam, Krishna naipai. That person who runs here and there to satisfy his palate, who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals, is unable to attain Krishna. In the beginning, we have that tendency that we think in the temple there is a Bhagavatam class, and then we think when it's going to end, we are hungry, we want to eat. So this bodily concept is very strong. Therefore, fasting on Ekadashi helps to control this urge. That therefore, a devotee is austere in that sense. That so, as stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are all situated in a straight line, and they fall into the same category. Lord Chaitanya said, Balikai kai be'ar, bala na paribe. Do not dress luxuriously, and do not eat delicious foods. So devotees, they dress very simple, no fancy clothing. Do not eat delicious foods. This means that when Prabhupada in the temples said, yeah, during the week, the prasadam was very simple. A dal, rice, vegetables, no sweets. That was once a week, only on Sunday. So we should during the week eat simple. That and avoid sweets and too much too much cheese and so on. Once a week, that's all. And that will help. That do not eat delicious foods because we become attached to that. Those who suffer from diseases of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of the belly, at least according to this analysis. When we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadashi and Janmastami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. So that's by that on Ekadashi, Janmastami, we learn to control our senses. Ekadashi is meant for not eating. But as a compromise, we can eat some Ekadasha prasad if needed. So, as far as the urges of the genitals are concerned, there are two, proper and improper, or legal and illicit sex. When a man is properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for begetting nice children. This is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in illicit sex as defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or having sexual intercourse or satisfying the genitals by artificial means, is caught into the clutches of Maya. So, not by thinking, planning, and so on, but sometimes because of our past illicit activities, our mind, these past illicit activities are stored in our mind. And our mind goes back thinking about that. But we should try to avoid this thinking. But if you eat too much, you cannot avoid. Maya will force you to think about that. So this is something to consider. These bad habits don't go away at once. It takes some time to come over this illicit planning. That's so. Talking about or having actual sexual intercourse or satisfy the genitals by artificial means, one is in the clutches of Maya. That Maya is very strong. These instructions apply not only for householders, but also for tyagis, of those in the renounced order. In his book, Prema Vivarta, chapter 7, Sri Jagadananda Pandit says, Jagadananda Pandit was one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. I think in Krishna's past he was Satyabhama also. And he could control Lord Chaitanya. He would force Lord Chaitanya to to eat certain things and to sleep on a nice bed. But Lord Chaitanya was a sannyasi, did not want that. But Jagannath Pandit, by his love, he forced Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, Jagannath Pandit is Prema Vivarta that will read what he's writing here. Varahi bai Makatana Suni Bekani, Gramya Vartana Kaibe Yabe Milibeane, Svapane Nakara bai Stri Sambasana, Hriya Stri Shadia bai Asya Chavanam. Yadicaya Pranaya Rakite Garangera Sani Chuta Haridasera Kata Take Yenan Mani Balina Kaibe Arebari Naparibe Hridayete Radha Krishna Sarvata Sevibe. My dear brother, you are in the renounced order of life and should not listen to talk about ordinary worldly things. Nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet with others. Do not think of women, even in dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of life with a vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their Lordship Shri Radha and Krishna, and serve their Lordship Radha Shri Radha Krishna in your heart of hearts. So what Jagannath, but Jagannath Pandit says here is that we should be very careful where we put our mind in. Never think of the opposite sex, women or men. That we should be very, very careful where we put our consciousness in. But unfortunately, if you eat too much, like previously described, Maya will force you to think of that. And it's very difficult to overcome that. We have the incident of Chota Haridas, who was in the renounced order. And he was begging rice from a woman. In his mind, felt attracted, and Lord Chaitanya is a super soul in everyone's heart. He knew what Chota Haridas, it shows what happened. And he rejected him from his from his environment, from his association. And yes, this is Jagannath Pandit gives here the indication. In our heart, we should always thinking of serving Shri Radha Krishna in your heart of hearts. In our heart is the soul, and in the heart of the soul is the super soul, is Krishna. Radha Krishna is with us. So we should always internally thinking that we are serving Radha and Krishna, that not thinking of worldly things. That so this is something which we need to learn. So the conclusion that are there any questions so far?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Raj.
Maharaj.
Okay.
Go ahead, JC Prabhu.
Just a quick question about the Ekadashi fast.
Yeah.
Do you think it's are we getting the full benefit if we just abstain from grains and beans, or should we be encouraged to fast fully? Is there a big difference between the two?
It is important to remember what is the purpose of Ekadashi. Purpose of Ekadashi is to think more of Krishna and be engaged in service of Krishna and forget our bodily needs. That's the purpose. That Bhakti Charamraj always said that first class Ekadashi is that the day before Ekadashi, you eat the last time at noontime. And then during the night of the Ekadashi, you stay awake and you chant the whole night. And the next day you fast full, not eating anything, just reading, chanting. It's service and chanting more rounds. And then the next day you break your fast. So and that's first class. And that gives the highest benefit. If you cannot do that, then at least you fast for a half day, Guru Maharaj said. That half day. And then take Ekadashi Prasad. But the full benefit you get when you when you fast fully, every Ekadashi. Fortunately, most of us cannot do it. And there are also restrictions. If you are diseased or you are old, then you cannot do it. Prabhupada, he didn't like fasting very much. And he was very regular in his prasad. He was eating frugally, not much. So yeah, you have many ways to do it, but the most important thing for Ekadashi is that one on Ekadashi, one forgets the body and is engaged, fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And if one can do that, whether one eats or not on Ekadashi, that's first class. That's real first class. But there are other benefits, of course, because when you fast fully on Ekadashi, then your body starts to cleanse. Then inside it becomes very hot, and so many dead cells are removed from your system. It's a cleansing but we should not do this artificially. Trying to jump to that level of full fasting in one time. No, we have to see what we can do. It's building up more. Because otherwise, if we try to do that artificially, we will more think about eating on Ekadashi than about Krishna. And that's not the purpose. Then it's better to eat something. But if you don't have that inconvenience, then you fast fully and engage in devotional service. My experience on Ekadashi is if you are very busy engaged in devotional service, you forget about eating. That is what I could say, Jagannath. Any other question?
Thank you.
Yes, Maharaj. So you mentioned that we shouldn't be eating sweets except once a week. I'm going to take it that fruit can be considered a sweet.
Well, it depends, because fruits as sugar and fructose, that if you eat too much fruit, it will also lead to uncontrolled senses. So we have to be careful that it's eating only fruits is also not so healthy.
Yeah, I normally I eat fruit with yogurt in the morning, and then at lunchtime, Mataji makes whether it's kimchi or one of the other dishes. She does a tofu scramble with vegetables, and then we usually have a salad later in the day with something else that we've concocted, trying to follow a little bit more along the lines of first class food that Krishna would like. I don't taste and smell, so it's easy for me to eat. All I taste is the love in the food that went into making it.
Okay.
So, but I'm trying to regulate how I do that during this month so I can figure it out from hitherforth.
Yeah. The yogurt and the tofu should be taken in moderate, not too much.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Because otherwise it will become more heavy to control the senses. But otherwise looks a nice menu. But it's different for everyone. That everyone has different body and different needs. But yes, I've learned yogurt is quite heavy. And yeah, also I avoid bread and so on. There's too much grains, because grains con, 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 contain a lot of sugar, glucose, and and sugar is the basis of alcohol. You will see if you eat too much sweets, then the control of the senses becomes very difficult. Therefore, we do that usually once a week, these sweets. And sugar is, especially this refined sugar, is like poison.
Yeah, Maharaj, we try to avoid refined sugar as much as possible.
Yeah. Then in sweets, yeah, you have jaggery and so on that you can use instead.
I just bought a block of it, so we're going to try a meal with it here soon.
Yeah, but
Thank you, Maharaj.
But the gas again should be used moderate. These things not too much.
Right.
Because someone gave Prabhupada, they put a little too much honey in his, I think his milk. That Prabhupada said, you try to intoxicate me. So these things should be taken in moderate way. Good. Anything else? Good. Then we continue next week. Next week we'll also have the Bhagavatam class again, because today I've the Bhaktivedanta class for the Mayapur Institute at the same time. Next week we have also Bhagavatam class. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Have a nice night. For me, the day begins. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you very
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
His
Bol.
Bhakti Prabha Maharaj ki jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Bol.
All right.